Did it start? Hi. Good morning. Thanks for joining me on the live training session this morning. Almost scared. The electronics almost seem to work too good. That's always worrisome. Yeah, I'm on that TV. It's not that cold here this morning. I think the temperature is about 50 or the lower 50s, but we've got a really heavy north wind. My stirrup's loose. We have a really heavy north wind. I think it's like 14 mile an hour with gusts 25. Fix my stirrup. And so it's pretty miserable. We're going to talk about giving the horse a job fixes nearly all of the issues that you have with the horse. And we're going to talk about some of the issues and why giving the horse a job fixes just about every issue. And we're going to talk about Mr. T and Basta. Put those two videos out recently. Mr. T is the Arabian. Basta is the Peruvian Paso. And they're both kind of a handful. Basta really isn't halter broke. She's 2 years old. She's small because she's a Peruvian Paso. And this is Mr. T right here. He's an Arabian, 3-year-old Arabian, pretty good size Arabian. And if you did not see the video that I put out yesterday with Basta, you should take a look at it. That was a pretty interesting video. A lot of things happened in that video, and a lot of things connected as far as like why I do something a certain way, why I want the horse to be a certain way. I worked her to get the halter on. It took me probably 20 minutes or so to get her halter on her. She's not really halter broke. She really don't lead very good. And I'm not huge on running one in the round pen anyways. I want the horse to think. I don't want to get it tired to get it to do what I want it to do. And in Peruvian Pasos, Arabians, thoroughbreds, you really can't just run them and make them do things that you want to do anyways. So I want to encourage her to think, and that's what I did by petting her head and sending her butt forward. And in the process of sending her butt forward, I desensitized her to the rope, got a rope around her neck, got the halter on her, and everything one step built from the last step. But the whole concept of giving a horse a job to fix most issues just kind of seems foreign in the horse world. I see people ask about, how do I fix this issue? I can't catch my horse. I can't saddle my horse. My horse bites. My horse doesn't control speed good. And the whole concept of giving the horse a job just kind of seems foreign in general. And I talk about everyone should be working towards showing. And that's kind of the job that I do, that I work towards. And the whole structure of that helps the horse. It helps me as a trainer. If you're doing that, it would help you as a rider. And it's just the big picture. When you see me work a horse for a session, you're looking at one little tiny piece of that horse's whole life. And a lot of people get really focused in on what's going on that piece, that technique. What technique did I use to do this thing? What were my hands doing? What were my legs doing? And not that those things are not important, but the big picture is what's really important, that I'm working towards this thing, towards giving the horse the job. And exactly what the job is really doesn't matter. Whatever you're interested in and what your horse is interested in, that could be the job. I mean, that's the whole. Most people get horses as a leisure activity, which is fine, but horses are really bred for a job. They were hundreds, thousands of years. They were used for transportation. They were used for building, dragging logs, grading roads. King P234 drug a road grader most of his life, one of the foundation quarter horses. And their brain for thousands of years have been geared towards having a job. And if you do some sort of show event, doesn't really matter what that event is, you're occupying that horse's mind, giving that horse a job, and you're helping him become a well-rounded horse. If you have any questions about that, put it in the comments. We'll talk about it. I want to talk more about kind of the process I did with Basta. If you saw the video, Bob was the star in that video. I couldn't have done it without his help. What I did in an hour would have taken several days without him. And that's why I wanted to ride him and just kind of talk about a little bit about him today. If you have any questions about him, put them in the comments. I'm still giving him the immune builder about once a week. He's calm, relaxed. He's not dull like he used to be. And really nice horse. He's 15. His registered name is Einstein Rewound. And if you can go to All Breed Pedigree on the internet and put in Einstein Rewound, 2 different words, and he'll come up. That is him, and you can see his full pedigree. He is a son of Einstein. Einstein was the barn name. The registered name was Great Resolve, and his mama was a daughter of Top Sail Wiz. And you can see his pedigree there. That's Bob Einstein Rewound. Got any questions so far? Okay. Bob is, I think he's about 15. I don't remember exactly. And I originally owned him when he was 4, around 3 to 5 year old year, somewhere in there. I don't remember. I'd gotten him to be a reining prospect. His bloodlines is all reining blood. I actually won a lot on his half sister in the NRHA, and that's a big part of what got me to want to get him. And he didn't make it as a reining horse. And back then, when I called him out of being a future reining horse, I sold him. And he only went through 2 other owners, and then I got him back from the second owner, and I've been using him ever since then. I've been using him for this kind of stuff around here. He's been shown a few times in ranch trail, ranch riding, the equestrians with disability stuff. He's been shown in that. And last time I showed him was, I think, last year, if I remember right. I posted a video of him. We'd done a series. And recently I've been working towards taking him and starting to show him again. And I would have taken him to this last Louisiana stock horse show, but I didn't have space in the trailer. So maybe we'll take him to the next one. Basta. She's pretty spoiled. She's a 2-year-old Peruvian Paso, and not really halter broke. When her owner got here, we actually backed the horse trailer into the barn aisle and unloaded her into the barn aisle and put her out here to spend the first night. And then I put her from here. I opened this gate, put her in that little alley between the 2 arenas, and that's where I worked her the first time. and got the halter on her, ponied her through that gate, ponied her out here, ponied her into the stall. And since then, I've been working her in the stall, just getting her used to being touched, handled, putting the halter on. I started picking up her feet using pretty much the same techniques that I used on Ace a couple years ago, and I used on Rodeo more recently. Really the same thing. But when you have a horse that is giving you a problem, whatever that problem is, like her, 2 years old, she didn't want to be caught, and I'm giving her a job. I'm going to be starting her under saddle, but we're going to be lunging, saddling, sacking out, driving, everything working towards that job, and that's going to fix all her issues. You got a question? All right.
Yep. Can you suggest how dressage training could be made more interesting when there is really no purpose that the horse can see?
Okay. Can I explain how dressage training can be more interesting when there's really no purpose that the horse can see? Um, if dressage itself means training, and it's similar to it's the English version of reining training. And I haven't trained but just a couple of horses for dressage. I've trained a lot of horses for reining, and when the horse is really bred for reining, for what I'm doing, the horse loves doing it. The horse loves doing the job. And if you have a horse that you're training for dressage and your horse is bored with that job, you probably don't have the right mind for the job. Um, I've had several really good dressage horses in here that I've worked, and they enjoy doing their job. But you have to do other things, maybe trail ride, uh, uh, anything. You can do some trail obstacles, ground poles, anything to make it more interesting, more engaging for the horse. But a reining horse that's really bred to do reining loves doing the job. So if your horse is bored with dressage, uh, dressage may not be what he really is intended for. A horse needs to enjoy the job that they're doing. I see it happens a lot that someone is interested in doing a job, doing something, and they go and get a horse, pick out the horse for conformation, color, size, all kinds of things that have nothing to do with the job they're doing. And then get the horse home and try to get that horse to conform to that job. And often that doesn't work. I am really big on papers. When I work a horse that belongs to me, we're working towards whatever it might be, reining, cow horse, ranch riding. I want to see that horse's papers and see that the other horses, the parents, the grandparents, did that job that I'm working that horse for, or a similar job. If you have a thoroughbred, say, that's got really good running blood, uh, Secretariat, Dash for Cash, probably going to make a pretty decent timed event horse. Likely not going to make a good reining horse. It's just too much of a different job. So if your horse isn't excelling in the job you want that horse to do, probably just doesn't have the mind for that. Uh, Cow horses are a lot different than Western pleasure horses, and it doesn't mean that they can't do it to an extent. We had Bebe in here day before yesterday, I think, tracking cows around. And he likes doing it as long as he can do it in slow motion. He don't want to go fast. So the horse has to have the mind to do what you're wanting the horse to do.
Okay, Sebastian said, do you think sometimes board is confused with acting up because they're the wrong horse for the job? A dressage horse will need to be okay with every step being dictated. The wrong horse will get very frustrated with that act and act like they hate the job?
Yeah, great comment, great question. Do I think that a horse that bored can be confused with acting up? Because a dressage horse needs to be okay with being every step being dictated to. Absolutely. Uh, bored can be dictated. Bored and acting up can be easily confused. Many of the horses that I get in here, that's what they are. They're bored. They need a job. You have to give them something to do. And in the English world, you have a horse that really likes jumping, and is probably going to be bored with dressage. If I have a horse that really likes working cows, it's probably going to be bored with reining. And in that process of being bored, it's going to act up. It's kind of like a child in school that's not being challenged. And if they get bored in school, they're going to act up, they're going to get trouble. So, absolutely. Acting up and bored, I think, go hand in hand. I think that's often very common. Uh, That's Sunita and Campo over there. Looks like Sunita's in season. It was funny. Campo and Mouse have been kind of sparring for the last couple days. We got a couple of mares here that's been coming in season, and they've been sparring for the last couple of days. But this morning they were eating out the same bucket right there. It's funny. They're both geldings. I don't have a stud on the property. I won't take a stud for training anymore. They're all geldings, but especially this time of the year, the mares start to come in season. They're heat cycles. They stronger heat. It really gets the geldings riled up, and that's what's going on over there. That's why Campo and Mouse have been kind of sparring. I'll walk Bob around just a little bit. If you have any questions about Bob, put it in the comments. We'll talk about it. He's I gave him the immune builder. Was that last year? I called him my Willie Nelson horse. He looked like he just come off Willie Nelson's tour bus. And according to the directions, it said to give it about I think it was every third day, every 3 days. And I did that for a while, and I've backed off. I'm giving it about once a week now. He's not as spunky as he was when I was giving it every third day, but he's definitely brighter. His eyes are brighter. His coat is good. He went. It's been several years ago. He had a young horse that chewed his tail all the way up to the bone, and he went. I think 2 years. I don't think his tail grew hardly at all. And when I put him on the immune builder, he grew this really long tail. It's not really thick, but it's a long tail, kind of like his mane, kind of thin. And Mr. T here, I'll have a video coming out, I think tomorrow, ground driving him. And he's exactly that definition of being bored and acting up. He's, I think, 3, if I remember right. And he's very bored. He needs a job. I'm ground driving him. And when I change directions, he's kind of getting wide-eyed and worried. But it's that acting out just kind of spirals. And a lot of times when a horse starts to act out, and they act out just out of coincidence, and the handler, the owner, reacts to that acting out, backs up, whatever, they're getting themselves safe. The horse will learn that action will get the owner to back off on the pressure, release the pressure. And I get a lot of comments about horses throwing temper tantrums to get what they want. And I say that comments all the time. A horse is not capable of that, but horses are absolutely capable of that, because everything a horse does is a learned response. They do something, you release pressure. And if the horse rears up and you release pressure, well, they learn that if they rear up, you'll release the pressure. And that's how things spiral downhill really fast. Another question?
Can you talk a bit about the poverty line on a horse's rump by the tail? Is it a good or less good indicator of something?
Okay. Not really sure what you're talking about.
Mary,
Yeah, the line on the horse's rump. I'm not really sure what you're talking about. As far as a good or bad indicator, I don't really look too much about the line here. I want to see the legs up underneath them for the event that I do. He has a line back done, so he's got this line right here. That's part of his color. So I'm not really sure what your question is. So maybe you can elaborate in the comments what your question is. 'Cause I'm not really sure. Okay, what's the other question?
do you have experience with horses that have been diagnosed with
Okay. Do I have experience with horses that have been diagnosed with Cushing's and experience with medications?
suggested, like if you could suggest?
Yeah, if I could suggest medications. I have had a couple, two that I can remember off the top of my head. I think maybe there was three that were diagnosed with Cushing's. And as far as medications and stuff, I go by what the vet tells me. And I don't I don't I don't veer far from that. As far as like if a horse has, especially something serious like Cushing's, EPM, uh, I'm not big on just trying different medications. Um, I go by what the vet tells me, and you want to certain things you want to do with Cushing's and with far as with the diet. We used to body clip the ones that we had in the springtime. It's mostly it's a lot of diet related stuff, but there's probably I stick with what the vet tells me. That's like let's say EPM for instance. I have a lot of experience with EPM, and there are different stages of EPM that affects different parts of the horse to different severities, and depending on what that is, what the titer is, and the blood work is going to determine the medication that the vet gives me to treat the EPO. And I'm not going to vary from that. He has the education, the experience on treating those things, and that's what I'm going to treat him with. And I don't. If you're not satisfied with what your vet tells you with treating Cushing's, maybe go talk to another vet. But I don't just bounce around trying things. Another question?
Well, it goes back to the poverty line. She said it's a line indentation between what appears as muscling that runs up and down from the tail down, both sides of the tail.
Okay. Poverty line that runs up and down both sides of the tail. I I I'm, I don't really I don't know anything about that. As far as most lines on a horse, as far as like muscle, that's still you're dealing with muscle structure, and you can adjust the muscle structure. And if you're talking about this line right here, you can change that line with changing the muscle structure. So as far as looking at it and determining just what that is, uh, change it. I can make it something else. So no, I don't really put anything into that other than looking at the overall muscling of the horse.
Okay, Sebastian, going back to the job for a problem horse topic, do you think it's fair to say that a horse itself is never the true problem, but the situation it's in creating problems?
Yeah, Sebastian, as far as do I think that the horse itself is typically not the problem, but the situation that the horse is in is usually the problem? Absolutely. We address it as this problem horse or this thing because the horse is displaying this behavior, and that's kind of how we address it. And yeah, the actual problem is the situation. Uh, Most of the horses that come to me get or have whatever they have because of the situation that they're in. You turn a horse loose on 1,000 acres, he's going to adapt to that 1,000 acres, and you try to catch him, he's going to have what you perceive as problems, but he's adapted to that situation. You bring a horse onto your property and you start handling him in a certain way, he's going to adapt to that certain way. And whatever his behavior is, you're creating that behavior. Whether you intend to or not, you're the one creating the behavior. You as the person that's interacting with the horse. So it is all a matter of the situation that the horse is in. And it, that's why it's so important that we all as horse owners educate ourselves as good as we can. We're none of us are perfect, but we try to do the best that we can to create the best situation for the horse so that we um, don't put the horse in those situations. That's like the line in The Horse Whisperer, where the mother called for the horse trainer and said, "I understand that you help people with horse problems," and he said, "No, ma'am, I help horses with people problems," and that's very true. And we do address it as a problem horse, a problem situation, but yeah, it's usually the situation that the horse was in that created that problem. And like with Sebastian talking about a dressage horse getting bored, that's the situation that horse is in. And if it's bored with dressage, it's going to act out. It's going to be have a problem, become a problem horse, and just needs a different job. That's why this whole point of this today's talk is why it is so important to give your horses a job, and a job that fits that horse. Bob, I wanted him to be a reining horse. That job didn't fit him, but his job here with ponying these babies and helping me get these young horses started, that fits him. He does a very good job of that. He would not have done a very good job in reining. I tried to push him and tried to get him to do that, and it was a problem. And if I have, let's say, a high-strung Arabian, say, that's a terrific trail horse, really likes getting out doing something, and I try to make a pony horse out of him, and I want him to be calm like Bob is when I got a 2-year-old bouncing on the end of the line, probably not going to work. That's probably going to bother the Arabian because that's not the right job for him. And every horse has to have a job, and it has to be the right horse for that horse, the right job for that horse. Um, I am really big on not buying for color. I see so often people say in comments on my videos, that horse sure is pretty. I don't really care if the horse is pretty or not. Pretty kills. Pretty will kill you. Um, and people say, well, it doesn't cost any more to ride a pretty horse. It could if it puts you in the hospital. And I, Bob's about as plain as one can be, but he has a job that he's really good at. Whatever issue you might be having with your horse, look at the whole picture of the situation that horse is in, whether he needs a different job or he needs a job that you're not even working him for any job. Um, Look at the situation and address that. I cringe every time I see somebody say, well, the horse has this issue and you work this issue, but you're not really working the horse as a whole. You're not working the horse towards a job, and you're addressing that symptom, but you're not really fixing the situation of the horse needing a job. And because of that, the horse starts acting out over here. If he's acting out, let's say he don't want to be, and you work on catching, well, then if you haven't really addressed giving him a job, later he might decide, okay, you're not picking my feet up anymore, or I'm going to not turn left anymore. Just things like that because they're bored and the job that they're doing just doesn't fit them. So it's really hard to look at your horse and decide what I want to do with this horse is not good for this horse and move on to a different horse. That's really hard to do. people get stuck in the frame of, well, I can't sell him because I'm worried about what might happen to him if I sell him. But you have him doing something with him that the horse doesn't like, creating issues with the horse. And in many cases, those issues spiral so out of control that the horse might become dangerous, all because you didn't want to take a chance on finding him a more appropriate home. And again, that goes back on you as the horse owner, the horseman. It's your responsibility to do what's best for that horse, even if it makes you uncomfortable. You know the question?
Do you have any experience with rugged large bloodline?
Do I have any experience with rugged bloodlines? I don't very much. They were pretty versatile horses back in the day. If I'm not mistaken, I think late 70s, early 80s, maybe mid 80s. Uh, and most of the horses that are out there now performing don't go back to rugged lark. You rarely see that in horse. I rarely see that in performance horse papers nowadays. Whatever reason that is, I don't know. Um, some of them were really good, but I think some of them were kind of hard to get trained. And a lot of that goes back to training techniques have changed a lot, and they're constantly changing. We want to get softer. We want to develop softer horses, more willing horses, and the training works towards that direction. And some of the bloodlines really comply with that really good. You see bloodlines out there showing now. You see a lot of gunners. Excuse me. You see a lot of cats in the cow world. A lot of Pepto Boons malls, Magnum Chick Dreams, uh, Gonna Trash You. You see a lot of those bloodlines because they work good with modern training techniques. A lot of bloodlines that you don't really see anymore, I really think it's because the techniques that we use now don't really work with those bloodlines. That's like real heavy king bred horses. I've had several in, and they're rough. They're rough horses to train, and you have to be a little bit rough with them. And a lot of people don't want to use those techniques, but that's what works with those bloodlines. And if you're not willing to adapt to what works for those bloodlines, then you have to stay away from those bloodlines.
Dusty would like for you to talk about the need for physical and mental stimulation and how it relates to what you're talking about today, but also it with letting them be a horse.
Great, Dusty. Balancing mental and physical stimulation and balancing that with letting them be a horse. That is an absolute necessity. And I am really big on training the mind, stimulating the mind. I've been messaging with Sebastian. He's had a horse that he's had a little bit of issues with, and it's all had to do with getting the horse to focus on what Dusty wanted the horse to do. And I gave him a few ideas, and it worked really good. You have to mentally stimulate these horses nowadays, and you have to physically work the horse. And used to, with a lot of these older bloodlines, it was more about physical and less about mental. Nowadays, the horses have changed, the training has changed, and it's more about stimulating the horse mentally and teaching the horse to mental confidence, mental self-discipline in their training. And physical, the horse needs to be turned out. We're going to lope circles, we're going to trot, we're going to do the extended trots, the collective, we're going to do all the physical things. But just like Dusty said, you have to balance that out with the mental things. If all you do is work the horse physically, and I see this a lot in a lot of the comments, they want to go out in a round pen and just lunge a horse until it starts to give in, and you end up working the horse physically, but not really stimulating the horse mentally. And most of the modern performance horses can't handle that. So you have to have that balance, the mental and physical. And with one horse might need more mental, and a different horse might need more physical. And I believe that's on a horse by horse basis. And I think a lot of that has to do with the bloodlines of that horse, what it went back to. And you have to be able to adapt. You don't train every horse the same way. I have a general program, and I've thought about putting out like a video series, like a colt starting series, and you do these things to get a colt started, and those things have to be done. But I might spend a whole lot of time ground driving, like I'm doing Mr. T, and less time on something else where with different horses it's going to be different. Uh, kind of different things for what that horse needs. So yeah, you have to stimulate mentally, you have to stimulate physically, and it's a balance. And if you don't balance that good, you're going to end up with a horse with some holes in it. And that's, to me, that's why you should be working towards competing some kind of way, working that horse. And you go to whatever show that is. It can be a ranch show, it can be a dressage show. It really doesn't matter. That's when you're going to find out where your holes are and what you need to go back and improve on.
Kelsey says she's still trying to get the halter on her pole. She made small progress on being able to pet more on the left side and him willing to follow me. She got close several times, but he keeps running off. How did you get the halter on her?
Okay, Elkie, she's working with hers to get a halter on. In that whole session lasted like an hour, and what we took is just video clips, and that is one part that we didn't have a video clip of that I wish we had. And you saw where I was petting her head and taking the rope and sending her forward with the rope. I never asked her to follow me. I cannot make a horse follow me, but I can make a horse go forward. So I really don't encourage follow me. If the horse turns its head, lets me pet on it, that's great. Later on, then you can encourage following. So in the process of sending the rope, twirling the rope, sending, as she got more comfortable with the rope in the beginning, I just kind of waved it and I got a big reaction. Well, as that went on, I had to swing more to get any reaction. And at one point, I would have to actually pop her with the rope to get a reaction. And it got to where I could take that rope and just throw it over her back, and she would just stand there. And I'd pull it back, throw it over her back. I was desensitizing her to the rope. She was by that time, she wasn't turning her butt to me. She wasn't trying to avoid me. Her brain was thinking. I was stimulating her brain and sacking her out with the rope. Well, it worked out that I could throw the rope on her, bounce the rope around, and basically take the rope, and I had her by the rope. And at that point, pet on her, I put the halter on her. That's how I did that. I have her in a stall here. I'll probably get a video of doing that in the stall. I took the halter off when I put her in the stall because we need to practice that more. But I'm not at that stage, I'm not as big on trying to get the horse to follow me as I am sending the horse. If you saw the videos of rodeo, I was sending her pretty good because she was wanting to leave. She was wanting to go somewhere else. It's all about that sending. And when you start sending and they're like, well, I really don't want to send, I really don't want to go, then you start sacking out. And it's pretty simple from that. But I'm going to have a video. We'll get a video maybe today, maybe tomorrow, about me getting the halter on her in the stall. And I think that'll probably help you a lot. Any more questions? All right, I'm going to walk Bob around a little bit. Me and Melinda are both freezing. I see her shivering, and I'm cold too. The barn faces north. That's north right there. So the wind is just coming right through here. That's why you see the dust all stirred up. I have a video coming out talking about Might have put it out this morning. I don't remember. No, it's coming out about my drag for my arena, and I'm getting some work done to it. Talking about what I'm getting done to it, and I need to order me another sprinkler to wet the arena, knock this dust down. I had a horse tear up my other sprinkler, and it has to be a gear-driven sprinkler. The reason being is if you get one that bounces to make it advance, you end up with a wet spot right in the middle, and you do that, and I end up packing the middle down really hard. Where you get a gear-driven sprinkler, which kind of like is what's similar to irrigation sprinklers. They're gear-driven. They'll spin around, and I'll get a more equal wetness in here. So, got one in my Amazon cart. I'll order it here one day. Yeah, Melinda said at least she can move around. She's got to move it in place. Last week she was afraid to move because we had a pretty iffy horse. What were we doing last week? Oh, Mr. T. The Arabian. Yeah. And since then, I've had him in the wash rack, rinsed him off. He's coming along nice, but we've got to get to the driving, got to get the steering down, and that's working towards the job that he's going to have. So we'll go ahead and kind of sum this up. If you have a horse that you're having a problem with, don't just punch holes in the problem. Give the horse a job. Look at the big picture. Look at the situation the horse is in, the big picture of what the horse is in, and make sure the horse suits the job that you're asking him to do, and work on the job. That's really what makes a horse nice. Don't just fix this issue. If you just fix this issue, you're going to have another issue. So we'll go ahead and close that out for today. I really appreciate everybody watching, and we'll continue to do these lives. And until next time, thank you for watching.